Hey, this is Dr. Celaya. I hope you're doing well. Hey, today we have a little bit different type of program scheduled for today, and we're going to be meeting with James Messina of Messinas.com. Hey, James, it's good to talk to you today.
Great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
So tell me a little bit about your company and what you do and how you've gotten to a place where you're at.
Sure. So I own a company called Messina's. Oddly enough, they hired me for the name, but it's a business I started with my father about 22 years ago. And what we do is we bring safe and natural lawn and garden products to the marketplace, kind of filling a gap for what the big companies don't seem to want to address.
Wow, that sounds fantastic because, I've done my fair share of videos on Roundup and, the Monsanto and now Bayer and just the controversy that's going along with them. And by the way, I met with a Bayer representative or a Bayer scientist, and I'm going to be talking with him hopefully pretty soon because I want to get their take
Sure.
on the whole thing. But for me being in the functional medicine field, it's really important for me to make sure that people's environment is clean.
Yeah.
And, bottom line is, hey, who doesn't love Roundup? I love Roundup just for the mere fact that I don't have to do much work, but I don't use it, right? Because of the possible health implications. And I can't have my patients use it either.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Roundup has had kind of first mover advantage in the sense that they've been around for the last 30 years. Everybody knows it. Everybody's used it. They've had good experiences with it in terms of its effectiveness on performing the way that it's described on the package. But with all the noise right now about the possible problems related to human health, whether it's cancer, liver, there's a few different stories that are out right now in the news. The question really becomes if we really need to use it, and up until us, there really hasn't been a viable alternative brand that has come along to offer consumers an alternative that they can go out there and be successful with.
And I hear you. I mean, it's just so important because, is Roundup the DDT of today's age? I don't know.
Neither do we.
Theoretically, supposedly, the way it works is supposed to be safe, but we're seeing different things show up, and the human body is so complicated that we may not necessarily know forever, right? Or
right.
It's just gonna be as time shows us. But you can see that everybody's getting a little bit crazy about it, and so I've tried all kinds of options as far as getting weeds, and I know you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, but the problem is here is that stuff never stops growing.
Right.
So, we're always in a situation to where we're trying to get rid of weeds. And I mean, we've even gotten to the place where we're spraying muriatic acid on these things to try and get rid of them. And they might not necessarily be so good for anything either. So,
well, here's the thing. I mean, there's a scale of safety, right? If you think about how the absolute safest thing that you can be doing from a human being health perspective, we have these great tools in the end of our hands, and getting your hands dirty and actually pulling weeds and removing them from the root is a great way for people to be actively engaged in the practice without using anything at all. And it's important for people to understand that there are a whole handful of options, whether it's your own body and tools and products like ours, that if there's a concern about what they may be contributing to the environment, they may also be impacting their health and the health of their neighbors and family. There's a whole lot of things they can be doing besides picking up the category leader and relying on it to solve all of our problems.
Yeah, and that's great because, I mean, really, I've looked on Amazon 55 times and looked throughout the internet trying to find solutions. And of course, you read reviews, and some of the reviews show benefits and others don't. I guess it really depends upon the type of weed or unwanted that you're dealing with. But it's awesome to look for a natural solution, something that we don't have to really worry about our health. And, it sounds like from what I've been told and what I've read, your product seems pretty phenomenal. So tell me more about it. How did you come upon it? What is it made out of? How does it not affect our health?
Sure.
And so on.
So the product is called Pulverize, and it's available at pulverize.com. It's available in Amazon, all over the place. But the part about Pulverize that's really special is there's 3 unique formulas, okay? One of which you can use right in your grass, that it won't kill the blades of grass. It'll only kill your broadleaf weeds. One of which is really strong, that'll help take out roots and things like blackberries and poison ivy and hard to kill. But the weed and grass killer is actually for organic gardening. So you can use that around your fruits and vegetables. The active ingredient is something called ammoniated soap of fatty acids. And if you know anything about ammoniated soap of fatty acids, they've been around forever. This is not rocket science. This is just, we're putting it in front of people's faces so that way they have an easier access to the product in packaging that's going to show them that it's going to perform. But what our product does that's different than a Roundup product or a glyphosate-based product, which is what Roundup is based off of. Glyphosate is a systemic product. So it's going to be absorbed by the plant. It's going to be taken up into the plant. It's going to kill the plant from the inside out. Pulverize is a completely different mode of operation. So the ammoniated salts of fatty acid actually will break the cuticle down of the plant leaves and of the plant structure. So you get a top-down kill. And so with all the health concerns about glyphosate, the real reason why there's all this concern is because glyphosate is only one half of the problem. The other part of the problem is that the powers that be have also created glyphosate and Roundup resistant crops. So your things like corn and soybeans and grains that are Roundup resistant take in that systemic Roundup and don't die. And so in that way, when it's harvested, that's how it's entering the food stream, and that's how it's getting into the human body. So with Pulverize, it's a completely different mode of operation. You're going to get a top-down kill. It's non-selective. It kills everything that it touches. And so you're looking at a much different impact on the environment and then on human health.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, there's so many people don't understand the controversy from GMOs or around GMOs. And it may or may not necessarily be about the engineering of the plant itself, but it's the ability of the farmer to spray Roundup on the crop up to a week prior to harvest to kill the weeds. And therefore, then you get your toxic levels or, who knows what. But, when you start looking at the European Union, they look at it a little bit different than we do as far as the parts per billion, as far as your exposure compared to us. And I'm not I'm not really confident on what we say is safe, as opposed to, because it's a complete different story when you start looking what the EU or the World Health Organization says.
That's exactly right. The World Health Organization's Cancer Research or Cancer Institute, I apologize, I don't have the exact term, and I really should have it, but they're the ones who came out and had tagged Roundup and glyphosate as a carcinogen. If you look around the world, Sri Lanka, the first country to outright ban the product from its country entirely. There are also 7 countries in Europe that have called the banning of. In France and in England, it's been taken off of consumer shelves. So you have all these different takes across Europe and other parts of the world where they're really questioning the safety of the product, and they're demanding more research be done so they can give their citizens the best information possible. And here stateside, we're being told by the EPA as late as, I believe, 3 weeks ago that glyphosate is completely safe and there's no health concern whatsoever. And that's what's leading to a lot of the problems with consumers. What do you believe? When you have two really just diametrically opposed opinions about a product, the truth has to be somewhere in the middle, at least, right? And so the question becomes, if there's a concern about using it at all, should we be using it until we know for sure? And I think that's the question a lot of consumers and farmers and activists are asking the public to really kind of take a hard look at.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head, because that's something I suggest all the time. It's do you really want to go down the path to use it until you really find out what the issue is? And, it's like, for example, California, which usually is kind of crazy in certain things, but they said that, it's a probable carcinogen, and we're going to continue to use it, even though it may be a probable carcinogen, until it's 100% proven.
Right.
So, but, on the other hand, like I mentioned, I was at a conference, and Bayer was there speaking, and they had some pretty phenomenal scientists there. And after one of their presentations, I kind of had a question for him. And I said, so what was Bayer thinking liability-wise when they acquired Monsanto?
I think everybody's asking that question.
Well, they had an answer for me. They hemmed and hawed for a second. They said, when Bayer looked at the science behind Roundup and glyphosate and all the rest of the things in Roundup, we found that the science didn't justify being worried about toxicity levels in humans, because it really doesn't have anything to do with humans. And so they said, we thought that society would look at the science and base their opinions off the science, and maybe that wasn't necessarily the right thing. Yeah. So, they had a good aspect as far as looking at the ifs and whys. So So how did you come up with this product? You mentioned that these soaps, the fatty acid soaps, have been around for a long time, and they have. But what makes your product different than the rest, and how can we use it and make sure that we're safe?
Sure. So the product that we use is actually brought in from Europe. It's been used for the past 15, 18 years out there under a different brand name. And, it was shopped around the U.S. for, I want to say, about 6 to 7 years, excuse me, to even the biggest companies that are in lawn and garden, and they all passed. They all passed on bringing in this natural product. Because the sales of the category leader were so strong, no one really thought there was a market for this. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, I made first contact with the company, and I said to them, I think there's a great hole here in the U.S. marketplace for stuff like yours. I want to bring it in. And through a licensing agreement, we bring the product into the U.S. As I said, it's been used in Europe for at least 15 to 18 years that I know of, and longer than that by folks under different brand names. But this particular one has just demonstrated its efficacy time and time again. And if you go to pulverize.com, you can actually see side-by-side comparisons to how quickly it operates against glyphosate. But in bringing it into the country, one of the things that we identified was that not only was there a need, but there started to be a growing demand for this kind of thing. And so what makes this product really different is, from a technology standpoint, the way it's formulated, it performs much differently than some of the fatty acid products that have been brought in previously. The combination of ingredients, there's some trade secrets involved, but because of its mode of operation, you're going to get like a 15 to 20 minute activation time before you get kill. And it's just going to be something that over time is going to degrade right into the soil and be gone because of its natural components. So that's why, like I said, on the label itself, it's actually for organic gardening.
Wow, interesting. So half-life, how toxic is it? I mean, is it something that we can spray in our hand and lick, or is it not recommended either? Tell me.
Well, that's a great question. And I often tell people, look, just because something's organic doesn't mean it's safe, right? I mean, you've been a doctor long enough to know that if anything, it's, I believe, what was the old philosopher? It's the dosage that makes the poison, right? Isn't that the line? So water can kill somebody if you take enough of it. With the ammonium fatty acid, it is a soap. It's a soap-based product. So it's something that is going to be very basic. It's going to be able to be used, cleaners and so forth. So there's abrasion to it. But when it activates with the soil, it has about a 5 to 6 day life in the soil, and then it's gone, and it just dissolves and disappears. I believe there are some concerns on the product regarding aquatic life. You want to be careful just because of how soap's ability to interact with the surface water may affect aeration and so forth. But outside of that, if you're using it around your garden and foods that you're actually going to eat, it's really not going to be an issue whatsoever.
Wow. So is it just, how do they, I've not looked at that website, but how is it applied? Is it just a spray? Do you buy a quart of this stuff, a gallon? Do you just put it in your own sprayer? What do you do with this stuff?
Sure. So it's a liquid product that you either can buy pre-mixed, or you can buy concentrated, mix yourself and put in a garden sprayer. We've got multiple different sizes. There's a whole wider range of products. It's available in about 100 Home Depots right now and about 800 Walmarts around the U.S., with more stores coming on, about 10,000 retailers nationwide. And it's become so readily available because, like I said, again, we're just filling that need that no one really saw coming. And so now you hear people like the Bayer Corporation talking about how they're investing, I think it was like $7 billion US to come up with a natural weed killer. And we kind of laugh to ourselves and say, we already have one on the market. They want to take another 5 to 7 years before they release it. And here it is, readily available for consumers who want to kind of make the choice themselves. And, that's really what it comes down to. We've been asked all the time, so what do you think? Is glyphosate safe? Is it something that people should be using? And we're very, very determined to tell folks, we have not done the research. We don't have the means by which to research the level of toxicity and so forth that's required to figure out the safety of glyphosate. But what we do know is that if you have a concern, you should demand a choice. And if you're looking for an alternative, we're just here to try to provide you one, and hope that we can do a good enough job to win your trust.
And I think that's a safe way to go, and I think it's a good way to go. It makes sense. There's a lot of people bashing and looking at research, positive and negative on both sides, and it's just like anything, right? I mean, I have different alerts set on my system to notify me anytime something's published on, let's say, vitamin D.
Sure.
And every day there's a positive and there's negative research. I mean, it just goes on and on. It really depends upon what you tend to believe. And And if there's an issue, why not be safe? I really do think that that's so important, because you should have that choice. And I applaud you for the different concept out there, because like you said, it hasn't been the most popular, but I think more as time goes on and people want good, clean food, and especially organic, they don't want all this junk in their food. They see what's happening to American society, and we have a train wreck going on with people's health.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you read the news or if you look online, you can't help but see stories of glyphosate levels appearing in products like Cheerios, Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Even Hidden Valley has to remove the phrase natural from their bars because of the glyphosate levels that are showing up when it's being tested. Most beers and wines test positive for glyphosate. And so the parts per million are small when you look at an individual item. When you think about the collective amount of product that's getting into the food stream, that's when folks start to ask themselves those hard questions, and they're entitled to, as a vegetarian, who became one about 4 years ago, you think you're doing something to help, and then all of a sudden you realize all the vegetables are the things that are bringing products into your body even faster because of how they're being applied out into the field. And so it's really imperative that until we have kind of definitive information, I get often asked, well, if it doesn't perform as quickly as glyphosate, why would I want to use this? It may take me 2 applications of your product instead of one application of theirs. And I say, yeah, but their one application is still up for debate if you look at the safety aspect of it in the courts and around the world. And we don't really have that concern. And I think consumers are making that choice themselves. They're saying to themselves, I think I'd rather make 2 to 3 applications of something I'm not concerned about than one that I have to really wonder if I did the right thing.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. And it's just you can basically understand that there may be small parts per billion as far as with glyphosate and other types of ingredients that they have, but it could be the bioaccumulation of this stuff. Does it accumulate? They say it doesn't, but who knows? And if everything that you're eating or consuming has glyphosate, how much is too much? Right? Because it's just, you look at it as far as one product, but then what about the next product and the next product and the next product? So, and the problem is it may or may not be sprayed on your food, but it may have to do with runoff or what was in the soil beforehand. And I just don't want any of those things in my food, and I can't afford to have patients on those type of products either, because we're dealing with a lot of chronic health issues. And I don't think there's any one smoking gun with chronic health issues, but it's everything that plays a little part of it. And some of these products can be that way as well. I mean, if you look at some of the toxicity levels in our foods, in our environments, we're still seeing stuff that has been outlawed since 1970s in our foods and on our products. So who knows?
Yeah. And from what I understand about the microbiome, there's so much happening inside our bodies, organisms that aren't even us, that are in there, that are alive and critical to our overall health. In terms of what this product and others are doing to those organisms as well, is something that still has to be definitively determined.
It's huge. I go to conferences, very frequently, and lately most of them have been on the microbiome, and even glyphosate, how it does affect the microbiome can be huge. And it seems that the microbiome can be responsible for just about everything in our body nowadays.
Yeah, from cravings to overall health, from what I understand.
Yeah. Great. So is there anything else that you would like to tell everybody about your product?
Just to let them know that, we don't claim to be miracle workers. We are just a small family business that we think has stumbled upon something that is just an untapped opportunity in the marketplace to help consumers out with something. And one of the things about Messina is, we're the kind of company who we want to try to help solve your problems. So no matter what your gardening question is, if it's something that interacts with the soil and in your plants and in your garden and in your life that you need some help with, give us a call. We may be able to recommend a product that we manufacture, but odds are if we don't have the right solution, we know who does. We're going to put you in touch with them. And so if you're looking for that ally to help you out with your home and garden and turf areas and lawns and so forth, let us be that kind of intermediary where we can kind of recommend something to you, especially on the natural side, to help make your experience with the world around you that much healthier.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And once again, they can find you at messinas.com. And what is the website?
And pulverize.com, pulverize.com.
That's great. This is Dr. Celaya from drcelaya.com. Take care. We'll talk to you next time.